Welcome back. Today we're very happy to have Mr. Mark Abbott on our show, President of Major League Soccer of the United States. Mark, good to have you here. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Well, I know you're on vacation, but let's still talk a little bit about business here.
Okay.
Give us a brief picture about MLS, the current situation of it.
Sure. Well, the league is doing very well in the United States. We are about to begin our 13th season at the end of March. We now have 14 teams. Next week, we're going to announce the addition of our 16th team. And so in 2010, the league will have 16 teams.
Wow. Getting bigger and bigger.
It's getting much bigger. One of the things that we've been working on is building stadiums specifically for soccer. When we began the league, we played in the old NFL stadiums, but now we have our own new stadiums, and that's done a lot to promote an interest in the league. And our players are improving. We have a number of players who have done very well in international competitions. We've been bringing over international players to play in our league. David Beckham, as you may know, joined the league last year. And so that's caused to be an increase in interest in the sport.
But Mark, let's face it, in China, this league is still not that big yet, as big as NBA, as some others. But, you know, I understand that you were born in England, actually. Given your background and everything, you must know a lot about what's going on in England, in the English Premier League, etc. Why don't we accept a lot of their successful patterns or principles and bring them to the States? For example, in terms of rules, regulations, etc. Why does MLS have to have its own, so to speak, rules, etc.?
When we started the league, we had our own rules, but then in 1999, we changed, and we now have the same rules that the rest of the world plays by. So we do play with the exact same rules that are played throughout the world. There are no differences between our
What about the penalty shooting now? Is it still
No, we don't have that anymore.
Okay.
So we ended that after 1999 was the last year of that. So our games end in ties, as they do throughout the rest of the world. We knew it was important for soccer fans to feel that the game was being played the same in the United States as it was everywhere else.
Not independent of other regulations from other, I mean, the international.
That's right.
That's situation. But let's face it, also back in the States, you know, we have a lot of big leagues such as an NFL, NHL, you know, not to mention NBA, which is so popular because of Yao's presence, and also Major League Baseball. MLS is really behind them. What do you make of the situation?
Well, we're a relatively new league. We're only 13 years old now, but we are growing in popularity, and there's great interest in professional soccer in the United States. We had a game last year where David Beckham and the Los Angeles Galaxy came to play in New York against our New York Red Bulls team. 65,000 people came to that game. So there is a lot of fan interest in the sport, and it's growing, but we're still relatively young. The other leagues in the United States have been there for almost 100 years.
You know, what you said reminds me a little bit about the Chinese professional league, which started professional on that level since 1994, I mean, up to this point, you know, more than a decade old already. Don't you think you might have something to share with the Chinese league as well? Because, I mean, what you try to do, what you're striving to achieve, maybe actually could be heard by the Chinese side as well. You know,
well, we'd be very happy to share anything that we could with the Chinese league. And when I was in China last year, I visited with some officials from the Chinese league in Beijing and talked to them about some of the things that we've done in the United States. This year, we started, just yesterday actually, a new tournament called the Pan-Pacific Championship that's taking place in Hawaii that has 2 teams from MLS, a team from Japan, and a team from Australia. And in the future, we would like to have a Chinese team play in that, and perhaps a team from Korea, so that we could have teams from all throughout the Asia region play against teams from Major League Soccer.
You bet. I mean, as an attorney in the past, everything, you have this kind of strong financial background as well. You did a lot of practice in the corporate law, etc. So you must know how to attract more people from China, as given the market is so big. Everybody wants to everybody wants to get a piece of action here. Not to mention NBA, some others. So what does your league try to do down the road?
Well, we're going to start with bringing the Galaxy here to Shanghai, and then we would hope to continue to build interest after that and bring other teams here in the future. As I mentioned, invite Chinese teams to play in this new tournament that we have with Japan in Australia, and also continue to work with the television channels to see if we can get coverage of our games or highlight shows or generally more exposure for the league here in China.
Why this time LA Galaxy? That's because of the presence of David Beckham, that's quite obvious, I guess.
Yes, it is. I think that we wanted to bring a team here that we knew there would be great interest in the team and David Beckham. And
that's a wise choice, I must say.
Yes.
He's been here before. He has created some sensation already.
And I heard there's a lot of interest in the game already.
Oh,
so
you bet as well.
So that's going to be tremendous.
How about bringing some Chinese or introducing some Chinese quality players to MLS?
Well, we would be very interested in that. Our teams have the responsibility for finding players and adding them to their roster, and I know a number of our teams have been looking in China to see if there are players, as you said, quality players that we can bring.
Right.
Next year we will have a new team in Seattle, which will be the 15th team in our league, and there's a very large Chinese population in Seattle, and that is a team.
Good community.
It's a wonderful city, and that's a team that's looking to find a Chinese player that it could bring to the United States.
I mean, back in the States, I know there are a lot of high schools in Colorado, some of the inner parts really have women's soccer, and women's soccer was very, very big. WMLS was so successful for a while, and then it went, aborted everything. So do you think really Americans are ready to, totally enjoy this sport and to really give MLS another push?
Yes, I do. We see it in our own league where we have games like I mentioned, the one in New York where we had over 60,000 people. We see it when we bring international games. So, for example, in 2006, we had FC Barcelona come and play in the United States, and we had 3 games in a week that each had 80,000 people at each of those games. So there is tremendous interest, and that interest is only growing from where it was a few years ago. So we're tremendously optimistic.
Well, in your vision down the line, what kind of challenges are still ahead for you to take or to tackle in order to really raise the bar again for the league?
Sure. Well, the biggest challenge is it's a very big country, and there's a lot of competition. And so you have to continue.
So that's what I'm saying. It's very similar to that of China, a huge country with a lot of clubs there.
Yeah, and a lot of competition. And so we need to continue to work to attract interest in the league. And we do that through improving the quality of the players that we have in the league, improving the stadiums in which the teams play, adding more teams to the league. A country like America can support a lot more teams than the 14 that we have now. So we have a very active plan to expand the number of teams that we have in the league and to continue the coverage on television. And we've made a lot of progress in that area in the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, we'd like to see more of the exposure of MLS here in China as well. Of course, on the other hand, we'd like to see more Chinese players appearing in your league.
So would we.
All right. Mark Abbott, President of Major League Soccer, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your opinions with us. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mark.
Good to see you.
Pleasure.